Hi, this is Kathy Baldwin, and welcome back to Unlearn the Crap and Level Up. This show with Sara Jane Wellock is a conversation that has actually been in the archives for a while. And in full transparency, this show probably should be 2 episodes because we talk about everything from the universal laws and how it affects us while Sarah was going through her cancer treatment and how she had to have a double mastectomy. But we also talk about everything from feminine and power, suppression of women's rights. We talk about our emotional connection to what's happening with women around the world having to wear burqas, to talking about orgasm and self pleasure. There's not a topic that we didn't cover. And I'm going to be really raw and honest with you. Not only was this conversation raw, but so was the recording. Because although I hit the record button when we started to talk, we really never ever left the place of being 2 women connecting with each other. And so this is a different format. This is truly an emotional, raw, connected, both of us showing up as 2 real women. It's a little longer than my normal interviews. It's very raw and unpolished, but no matter how many times I've tried to edit it, there's nothing I want to take out. There's nothing I want to take away from this conversation. And so I ask you to bear with me while Sara Jane Wellock and I really talk about some really important things. And I hope that this sparks some raw empowerment for you as well. I hope you enjoy this show. I hope you unlearn your crap and level up because your soul is calling.
Welcome to Unlearn the Crap TV with your host, Kathy Baldwin. Unlearn the Crap TV is more than just a show. It's a movement towards breaking free from the disempowering structures designed to benefit the few at the expense of the many. It's about education, healing, and unlearning the detrimental beliefs that have been ingrained in society for generations. So now, please welcome the host of Unlearn the Crap TV, Kathy Baldwin.
How are you feeling?
I'm feeling well. Yeah, I mean, Sloan Kettering is amazing. I think it's it's one of the top cancer centers in the US. And they're just absolutely fabulous. So I feel like I'm in very good hands.
Okay, so physically you're doing well?
Yeah, I mean, I'm adjusting. Are we on? Are we recording? Are we going for it?
We are recording, but I'm going to edit all away. So whatever you
Okay.
don't want included, I've just been finding that without the recording, some juicy stuff were happening, and then we try to recreate it. And I'd rather cut out anything personal than miss some juicy stuff.
And I'm an open book. It's totally fine. I mean, if there's anything super pressing, we can talk about it in the end, but I'm open to whatever you'd like to post for the most part. In terms of Sloan Kettering, yes, physically, there are adjustments because I had the double mastectomy and now I'm going through reconstruction. And it's a very weird, slow process.
What do you mean?
Basically, I did some cancer comedy. I could send that to you. So where I describe what I'm doing because it's really out there. It's very sci-fi. Basically, you have both breasts. Well, I had both breasts removed, and then they put in an expander. And they said I could wake up in the morning with nothing, or wake up after the surgery with nothing, or there might be a little bit of volume. And then essentially over time, you go in every other week, or I go in every other week. I don't want to put this on you. And they stick a needle, they find this magnet, stick a needle, pump up your breast, my breast. Why do I keep saying this? Pump up my breast. So it's like I'm going through puberty again. Like it's just like, they keep increasing the volume. And then
Yeah.
we see what my skin can tolerate, what my body would like, what they think is the correct amount. Then I'll have another surgery where I'll get the implants.
Okay. So how long, like, I'm sorry, I brought a lily from the grocery store into my home, and it came with fruit flies, and I'm trying there was one hitting my nose. It's driving me crazy. Anyways, so when I was 16, I got braces, and what they did was they removed 4 of my teeth, and then they put the braces on, and they kind of just pulled the teeth apart so that it spread them all out. So it sounds like that's what they're doing with your breasts, is they're manipulating the skin slowly, kind of like if you were pregnant, right?
Yeah. So yes. So basically, I'm a small person, but I did have some big breasts. So they leave the skin. The doctor, who's amazing, she's basically like she's a plastic surgeon, and she, to me, has a vibe of like a art curator or something, which is relevant because she's got to have the aesthetic, to sort out how to put everything in place. So
Like a
she,
sculptor.
what's that?
Like a sculptor.
Totally. So yeah, they put, she said, I'll, when I look down, if I had a freckle, that freckle will be right where it was, essentially. Like they save the skin.
Nice.
And then they put this like almost like an internal bra, which is very uncomfortable, in there. They pump it up every 2 weeks. And then probably about 3 months post surgery, I'll have the implants, the permanent implants, put in, and this expander taken out.
So have you chosen how big you want your breasts to be?
Well, it is interesting to get to figure, that's not something you get to choose every day. It's comforting to try to get back to my original size. It's comforting to look down and see volume, and even just, like the side of my arm now is touching against the breast because there's a little more volume these days. And even that is just sort of like reassuring to my system, like we're back in action.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I would be delighted to get back to my D's, but I'm open to whatever the universe has in store for me. If it's they may end up being a little smaller. We'll see. It truly depends on how much my body will tolerate and how much my skin. And I would never want to push it. I want to do what's best for my system as it is now.
If I had my choice, I've been a double D my entire life, and I have garnered so much attention by having these big breasts. I would do anything to be a B cup and not require a bra and just walk around in a tank top with little round little balls.
I get it. This has been an interesting part of it where you don't need a bra because right now they're so perky, like little rocks. So, and that's new for me too. Like I was wearing a bra when I was 9, so it's like, wow, like I get it. I get like that idea of not having to wear a bra and just having your perky breasts out there, little perky. I know I wasn't something I got to experience much either. So this is something new.
Are you enjoying this process?
I'm learning a tremendous amount. I think I told you maybe when I saw you last time. It's a master class.
I'm listening. Keep going. No, I'm listening. I want to know more.
It's just teaching me about life. I many years ago, maybe 20 years ago, I did this practice called A Year to Live, where I lived my life for a year as if I were going to die at the end of that year. It's a Buddhist practice. It was developed by Levine, Stephen Levine. He worked in hospice for many years. And what he noticed is that people would be given a limited time to, a doctor would say, okay, you have 6 more months to live. And then suddenly the life expanded and people were taking risks and doing things they always wanted to do. And so he developed this Buddhist practice where you actually face your own death and you welcome it and you enhance your life in the process. And so this cancer experience has had a similar quality where I'm just like, okay, girl, we get to be very clear about what we're creating on this planet. And if it requires some adjustment, now is the time.
So what has changed in your perspective?
Yeah, am I allowed to swear? Is that okay?
Absolutely.
Oh, I love it. Okay. So I have been telling people that I'm a little less of a chump and more of a bitch, and I'm proudly a bitch. And I've been sort of enjoying that new way of being. Like I just don't tolerate things that I may have tolerated in the past. I feel like I don't have time for certain things that I would have accepted. There was an issue with my heating. I'm renting in New York City, and in the past, I just sort of let it go. Oh, okay, I'm like throwing money out the window using this space. Now I'm just like, excuse me, you have to get this heat fixed like pronto. I'm taking the money out of my rent if this isn't fixed by end of business. I'm just like a new woman, and I'm enjoying that.
I was going to say, how does that feel?
It feels freaking awesome. It feels like, yes, girl, go claim your life. Go claim what you desire, what you deserve, get it.
So were you living a good girl life before?
I wouldn't call myself entirely a good girl. I definitely am willing to explore, and I've that's always been the case. I think I've kind of always been a weirdo, and I've been willing to be a weirdo. And weird, the first, I guess, definition of weird is of spirit, faith, or destiny. I learned that in this work I do called Access Consciousness. So yes, it's not as if I was always just, prim and proper and trying to be good, but I think there were ways in which I was undermining my value or what I was contributing or what I required. And these days I'm not having it. Someone hit me in this, crashed into me in the street the other day, and I was like, yo, buddy, what are you doing? This big guy, I'm not having it. Don't get in my way, people.
Okay, so now that sounds to me like a typical New Yorker. And you live in New York, right?
That's true.
So how is that different than the way you were before the cancer?
I think I was way more of a chump. I just, I was maybe not entirely nice, but just less willing to stand up for myself. So maybe you're onto something. Maybe it was a good girl thing that I'm changing. But when you say that, I think about like times I've spent at the dance studio. I like to dance. I haven't been doing it lately because of the surgery, but I like to dance. I'm looking at a pole studio, and that's not nice, girl. That's like sexy, hot, dance on a pole, be wild woman. And those are some of my favorite ways of being.
Well, that all depends, because sometimes that dance is created as a subservient and a disempowerment and a feeling of this is all that I have available to me is my body or my sexuality. Because I know when I was young, my sexuality and my breasts that we were talking about were the only thing that appeared to have value outside of me. And that if the world saw that I was smart or that I had opinions or that I was strong, then I was punished. societally for being that way. And so it was part of what I call the societal disempowerment that pushed me a little smaller. So that's why I'm asking about, because yeah, I love this resurgence of pole dancing by owning our sexuality and the power and the control over our body and what we bring to the world, and living and enjoying that own sexuality from the inside out. And if anyone on the outside is enjoying the visual of it, great, but it's not for you, it's for me.
Yeah, and that was the flavor of the studio where I belonged. Again, I haven't been doing it much in recovery, but it's more about a reclamation of the body and the eroticism, without doing it for anyone else but my own joy and happiness, and maybe my other sisters that are in the class, but there aren't other onlookers. Everybody in the class is dancing and engaging and getting in touch with feminine movement and reclamation of the body. So it's the empowering end of that spectrum, I would say.
I love that, because that's all about what Unlearn the Crap is about that self-awareness, using it for empowerment. I just finished a interview with somebody who had traveled globally, and we ended up on the topic of burqas. I find burqas very, very appalling, because it takes away the shape of a woman. It turns her into a blob instead of an individual. It feels to me as if the world is trying to control what God or the universe created, and deem this creation as unacceptable, where we live in a world where supposedly there are no mistakes. God doesn't make mistakes. So how are we covering this up? And it's about, to me, the silencing of it. But she gave me a really unique perspective that I wasn't aware of, because she had lived and worked in this area of the world. And she was saying, if you could see what those women are wearing underneath.
Oh yeah.
They're wearing lingerie. They're wearing the sexiest things ever. And my comment was, well, what good is the burqa? Because that energy is coming forward. And the men and the society around can feel that empowerment, and they can feel that sexual energy. They might not be able to see it because supposedly it's cut off from their physical eyes, but I don't believe that either, because we're all energy. So if you're putting out that sexual empowerment underneath a mask, you're still having that energy out in the world.
Yeah, thank you for that perspective. That's really interesting. I have heard various ideas about burqas. Like, I've heard that the mystery of it can be intriguing and sexy and mysterious in its own right, even if she's wearing a snowsuit underneath. Like you don't really know what is going on under there. Like, you get to see perhaps into her eyes, but perhaps nothing else. What's that? What's in there? And I've heard women who wear burqas saying that they feel sexy, because it's like, I get to be this person, and yet I'm not receiving all the negative implications, as if I were like walking down the street in a bikini or something much more revealing. So I've heard both ends of the spectrum, and then I've of course heard that point of view that, like, it's silencing a woman. So it's really interesting to think about it and to look at it from various different angles.
Absolutely. My issue goes to the fact that I am Gen X, and I came through the Gloria Steinem, the Helen Reddy I'm woman. I know I faced such discrimination by being a female in the corporate world. And I remember I said to one of my bosses, "You're only treating me like this because I don't have a penis." Ooh. And that, I know. I think that was why they laid me off very soon afterward, because I was not capable of tolerating that kind of disrespect because my body came in a female form.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome that you had that awareness, and it sounds like you were willing to exercise it no matter what.
I was, but eventually the push for conformity and
Oh yeah.
the push from the external and the desire to want real human connection and real empowerment, the dichotomy or the contrast, it wore me down,
It
and
did. Yeah.
it created cortisol in my body at all times, which created fatigue and disease. And, all of these things ended up becoming very detrimental and disempowering.
Interesting. So there was a time earlier on when you were willing to stick up for yourself and you had that drive, and then over time it diminished, and then you noticed it showing up as disease or fatigue in your system.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
interesting.
I didn't know. I didn't know that there were these social rules, right? I was just
Mm.
showing up to be the, because in school you're taught to bring the best of yourself, right? And you want
Awesome if
A's.
that's
And
what you were taught.
sorry?
That's awesome if that's what you were taught. Yes.
Well, you need to get A's. You need to be on the honor roll. You need to do all of
I
these things because you're being graded and judged. And so I was used to always looking to get that feedback that I was performing at a level that I had expected. And so when my actions were coming to a point where I thought I was producing at an exceptional level, but yet the treatment of me, it was those things that, did you have any of that happen in your career?
uh yes and no. I mean, I've certainly been made aware of social justice issues, like I want to say throughout my lifetime. And it's an area where I used to work professionally. So I had awareness of things going on. I managed to get into situations for the most part in my professional career where I was working in mostly female run owned organizations. My first career was in mediation. I helped people in conflict, and we also worked in social justice. Um, so conflict transformation, and that nonprofit where I worked upstate was mostly female run.
Was that a positive female environment or a negative female
I
environment?
mean, I think there was, sometimes we would reflect the conflicts that we were attempting to address, internally. But at least we would practice what we preached. So when something came up internally, we would address it through mediation, through conflict transformation, through all the tools and techniques that we developed. So I'd say
Wow.
that's pretty awesome. And
Wow.
then I ended up in a woman-owned and operated office when I moved to San Francisco. And there too, I think everybody, for the most part, everybody was celebrated and admired, and we valued each individual's strengths. Um, and now I have a business, Ladybug Productions, and I get to, I'm the president, so I get to make the big choices. And I do my best to run it the way I would like to see emulated in the world, where everybody's voice is valued and it's not based on our gender or ethnicity or class or anything else that doesn't make any sense. But
So
it sounds like, go ahead.
did you ever have to deal with the competition of women pitting women against each other?
I'm sure I'm sure it existed in my lifetime, because there is that dynamic. We all know that we probably all experienced it on one level or another, even if it's in our personal lives with friendships. There is competition among us, among women, sometimes. Um, I guess all of this is leading to like cultivating awareness. So I think awareness, whether it's self-awareness or awareness of what's surrounding us, or even beyond that, with awareness we can make change, right? We can say, oh, I don't like what's going on, I'm going to adjust. I think when we
Yeah.
become complacent, we might be less likely to make the shifts that are required as we go along. So that's what I've always been really looking to cultivate: awareness. I feel like I
And
just
that's probably, sorry, could you say that again, Sara Jane?
I just brought you in a circle, so I hope I'm answering your questions.
No,
And I'm curious to
absolutely.
hear about you too. I'm curious to hear more about. I mean, so it sounded like you started off not really knowing, so you just presented yourself, you know, in the way you were taught in school. I'm going to achieve, and then you realized that there was this difference between how you were treated and perhaps how your male counterparts were treated. But it sounded like after that, you sort of it got you down. And then it sounds
Yeah.
like you're changing now, or at some point you made a major shift after the dis-ease showed up.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much older I am than you. I was born in 1965, so I'm going to be 60. And so for me, it was a time of so much change and evolution that my generation had not caught up to. And then we
Yeah.
had all of this societal change and technology change, and all of these changes were coming. It was changing the dynamics in workplaces. It was changing really, women really only joined the major workforce right during World War II. So
Yeah.
it was only one generation before me. And so here I was, really, the second generation of females. But I didn't know that. I didn't know that those roles hadn't evolved, because I was just showing up in my naive self, here, how can I contribute? And not realizing that there were also a lot of core wounds that I had, that I was over delivering. And in
Mm.
hindsight, I'm pretty sure that my desire to please and my desire to over deliver and all of that, there was a lot of, but there was also cosmopolitan. So Cosmo was about, how do you please your man in 50 ways? How do you be the best woman? And I believe Cosmo was creating, pitting women against each other. We
Interesting.
were in competition for the man prize or the job prize, and we were not in this, what I see happening now, this new collaboration and synergy of creating the energies together, that we see the value in each of the contributors. Instead, it was very toxic masculine in a feminine world, and females are not, the feminine is not designed to be empowered
Mm.
outside of the feminine,
Mm.
right?
Well, I thank you for paving the way. I was born in 1976, so I thank
Okay.
you for helping those behind you move through some of this. Of course, I'm sure we haven't gotten to the other side entirely yet.
No, I think it's gonna be a few more generations.
Yeah, but I appreciate what you all did for us.
So when you were born,
Yes.
that was right about the time that women were given the right to own their own bank accounts and have their own credit cards and get their own mortgages. And it was also around the time that debit cards came out and you didn't have to work in cash. Oh, actually, that was more early 80s.
Okay.
That the debit machines came about.
Yeah, amazing. We were talking, pre-surgery, I would go and swim quite a bit at the YMCA, and there's a bunch of ladies, and we all take our swim class, and then we get into the sauna together, and it's so much fun. And they were talking about that weeks ago when I was there last, talking about like not even being able to have an account as a woman. That's freaking amazing. I'm glad that's shifted.
But are we sliding backwards?
Good question.
How do you feel about women's rights and empowerment in this current massive upheaval shift that is happening around the world? I mean, we've got Afghanistan women who it's now illegal for their voices to be heard, even outside. If the sound of their voice can't even come outside of their home, and that a woman isn't allowed to hear or listen to another woman. And then there's other areas of the world where here in our Western world, I'm in Canada, you're in the United States, women's rights to choose and our bodies and all of these things are up for grabs. But then there's other countries where they're looking and saying, what are you doing? And so there's so much in, I don't want to say conflict, but it's not transition, it's not evolution, but it's mushy and messy.
It is. I'm hoping it's the form of destruction that leads to profound change. I'm hoping that we break it down and then we build it back up and it's better than ever. Like that's the vision I want to, that's the target. It's jury's out as to whether or not that's what's gonna happen. I do think comic book villains eventually come down. So I'm curious to see if that will unfold. It is hard to gauge where we are exactly right now because there is a lot of chaotic energy.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes chaos can lead to something new and different and amazing.
So chaos is feminine.
And yes, and that's where I'm going to focus my attention. I mean, because, there's the collective and then there's our internal state. And so when it comes to my internal state, I see it improving, enhancing over time because I continue to work my practices and build practices and engage with people in the way that I would like to engage. Do I see that reflected across the world? No. But I may not even have control, beyond myself. So I think as I keep myself going, hopefully it's a contribution, and hopefully it helps us achieve the target of change, chaos, and then destruction, and then positive, amazing change, creation.
Yeah.
Do you have a different point of view? Like, do you think we're just
No. I know in trauma healing.
Yes.
That once we release that negative energy, then our body will release all of the suppressed traumas, and they will bubble up because it's like, okay, I'm ready to let this go. I'm ready to let this go. But when it pops up, it's ugly and it's messy and it's a trigger and it takes us out. And so I see what's happening right now, and in my mind, it is those triggers are being released for us to see it, have the self-awareness, the cultural, societal awareness, and look at it and make a choice. Does this serve? Does this not serve?
I love that. Because otherwise, I mean, I find if I don't look at it from that from a similar point of view, then I'm just gonna despair. But if I look at all this chaos that's being created as an opportunity for, like you said, something to rise up, get us triggered, get us motivated, and make change, well, that's exciting. I
Absolutely.
love the two words together, choice creates. Like, to me, that's just poetry.
Yeah.
Like, we make a choice and the choice is going to create something. And we can do it on an individual level. And again, hopefully that contributes to the collective.
When I think about chaos and change and things that are happening, and I think about universal laws and how we're in cycles of rhythm and movement and energy, I also come back to our original conversation of those women in the burqas. And
Yeah.
if they're wearing the sexiest lingerie underneath that, then that energy cannot be contained. And so
That's
if we
true.
allow ourselves to go into the despair, if we allow ourselves to go into the fear mode, then that's the energy we're bringing into the world. And that is part of what that old mandate, that old control power wants, that they want us in fear, because we're
Right.
disempowered when we're in that state. But
I love what you're
if we're bringing it for empowerment, if we're bringing it to, yes, I see the ugly and I'm going to fill it with love. Let me tell you the most amazing thing that happened to me once. I went to this retreat, and they were putting us into the most volatile, chaotic, hateful, horrible situations. And they let you know that this was going to happen. Okay, so we were fully aware; it wasn't a surprise, and we were told right ahead that love was the only power that would keep us safe. And so when we were in this environment, I remembered the words, and I'm thinking, okay, so here's this horrible, horrible environment. And I just poured love into that person who was putting me through this trauma. And I just kept feeling more and more. The more hatred and anger and aggression they put on me, the more love I gave out. And the idea was, what was going to win, love or the anger and the hatred? And when love wasn't there, the body collapsed. And there were people collapsing all around me. They were
Wow.
all over, big, strong men, all these people. And I wasn't collapsing. And so they were bringing in the higher masters, and the higher masters trying to break me down. And I didn't, and I wouldn't. And so they realized, okay, that I had taken their advice very seriously, and I had just pulled so much love out, And when I spoke to the person who was facilitating this exercise with me, I said, I felt the most serene power. It was so amazing. I never felt anything like that. I said, what did it feel like for you? And his response was, you can't feel something without me experiencing the same. I was right there with.
Gorgeous.
Yeah. Yeah. So if we take this chaotic time of hate and we just pour all the love we have into the hate, it's like when we're in the darkness, the only thing we can do is turn on the light and add light. You can't subtract light, you can only add it.
That's so beautiful. And it does. I love how you brought it back to the symbolism of the burqa and the lingerie under the burqa, that it really cannot be suppressed, right? Like, even if she's wearing a burqa on top of her lingerie, we can sense that energy. And that loving energy that you're talking about seems like it was extremely powerful for everybody. It couldn't be hidden. It couldn't be masked. It couldn't be denied.
It couldn't. But we still live in a place of ego where I get angered at the righteousness and the suppression and the oppression that the burqa represents to me.
Yeah. I hear you.
Who knew where this conversation was going to go? So we're talking about personal empowerment, and we're talking about that sexual powerful energy.
Yeah.
I want to know more about your caress group. What is it? How did this get born? And what is your vision and mission with this? I know I asked like 10 questions, so I'm just going to let you begin and then I'll ask more.
Okay, I'll do my best to unpack that. Yes, I have a practice that I call caress. We meet just to be the witchiest witches. We typically meet at least twice a month, typically on Zoom. So people from around the world join us. This is people with the clitoris only, typically, although I have opened it up from time to time. And
what do you mean from time to time? For transgender?
I'm sorry?
Or for transgender women or for males? Like, what do you mean open it up?
It's typically just for women, and it's an opportunity to commune with our own bodies, each other's bodies. And so we essentially, it follows the same format every single time. We follow the moon, so we meet on the new moon or the full moon. There's always a 15-minute window to start us off, because I notice more than any other classes I've taught, people typically seem to come late to caress, or just like, 5-10 minutes. So I built in a window of 15 minutes. People can arrive exactly on time. People can arrive 15 minutes later. We can have a casual conversation. They can ask me any questions. They can talk with each other. The idea also being that orgasm is unpredictable. So we have this 15 minutes of free space, and then we dive into the practice. And so I always mention, I start by lighting a candle, because a candle can really remind us of our sensuality, I think. It's true of anything. I mean, we can notice our sensuality right now. I'm noticing I'm sitting on this surface. I'm noticing my hair touching my face. I'm going to take a sip. I can take a sip and I can notice the fluid in my mouth. So everything is a sensual experience, but lighting a candle, I think, just evokes it, that you can see it. Sometimes I think people can smell the flame through the Zoom. So that's how we always open things up. And then I tell people that it's loosely based on orgasmic meditation, on Regina Thomashire's instruction to plan, have, and digest an erotic experience. You look like you know who Regina Thomashire is. I did both mastery and creation with her. So wow. I took a deep dive into her work. She's the founder of the School of Womanly Arts. So yes. Caress is literally based on that suggestion to plan, have, and digest an erotic experience. And we do that together. We plan our dates on the WhatsApp. So it's usually the new moon and the full moon, and people can give input about exact dates and times. And then we have the experience. And then there's always time at the close of the practice to digest. And then I also mentioned that I follow the energy to which I best credit access consciousness, another methodology that I really like that I mentioned earlier, but it's not an official access conscious class by any stretch. And then I lead, sometimes people offer suggestions for whatever's going on in their world at the present, and I'll weave in those themes for our practice. And basically we stroke our clitoris for about 15 to 20 minutes together. I lead people through this. It's a meditation. The idea being that people may have climax and, orgasm, and this might be the typical way that we've all learned about how to define that, or it could just be a new state of being, or someone could just spend all their time massaging their thighs. Like the main tenet of caress is following your own body's awareness. And this translates in our lives. Like when we open the fridge or we choose what to wear, what if we asked our bodies? What if we checked in? Body, what would you like? What do you desire? What do you require? So I beg my participants, listen to your body above my instructions. I'll give you some loose guidelines as we essentially meditate together. And then, like I mentioned, at the close of the practice, it's an hour-long practice, including that 15-minute window. We digest. So we share any reflections, any frames, any comments. And it's a really beautiful, transformational space. And yeah, it is erotic. And it's like, what if we could look at eroticism without making it wrong or bad? And what if we could do it, with our own bodies and in a community of other women? And when this all is coming around to your question about, who do I invite? Usually I very specifically say for people with a clitoris only, although there have been times when I've opened it up to anybody over 18 to join us. And truly that's been a really interesting, enlightening experience. I've had men come to caress sessions, and what I noticed came up the most for the men was a sense of shame and always sort of being demonized for sexuality. And caress is a totally different way of being. So it's an opportunity to let go of that and to, again, reclaim eroticism without making it wrong or bad. It's like this beautiful gift that we have, and yet maybe because it's so cool and wonderful and beautiful and healing and amazing, it's somehow deemed wrong, especially to do with yourself or to do it in a community. This is a bit controversial.
Yeah, the community part is brand new to me. I mean, I've only ever heard about the euphemism of, I'll say it's circle jerk.
Yes.
I
mentioned this on another podcast that someone was interviewing me about caress, and I mentioned the circle jerk, and he's like, yes, I know that I have that reference in my world too.
Okay, so that is new to me for women. When I think about womanly arts and Regina, I remember one, I didn't go through her full program. I really wanted to do her program because I was introduced to her by Dr. Christiane Northrup, who I adore Christiane.
Yes.
And so Regina, I mean, remember one of the exercises she said, when you go out into public, quietly walk into the bathroom, remove your panties.
Yes.
And if you feel inclined to grab some of your own personal scent and put it behind your ears, and then walk back out into the world and see how you present yourself with this secret of you're not wearing panties. Right?
It's kind of bringing me back to the burqa. Like, what if that could be happening behind the burqa? We're not really sure.
Well, yeah, you can't even see their hands, can you?
Who knows what's going on under there?
Wow, that's a whole new visual. Yes. So tell me, what profound experience the participants get through this practice? How does it bring empowerment?
Yeah, people give me a lot of feedback, and I have people that join us essentially every single class. I have people that drop in here and there. It's open. We've also done consecutive day practices, which I find to be very profound. But people say it's just like a beautiful way to start off the morning. It's a way to commune with other women and to commune with ourselves. People talk about how rather than being solely dependent on another person, like maybe a male or a romantic partner, it's like a way to be sexual and to be erotic without being dependent on a partner or a man or any individual. It's a group practice. I noticed that for myself. I noticed knowing that I have my own back in that way helps me trust that the universe has my back. Like I remember it's a little woo woo, and I remember hearing people say, "Oh yeah, the universe has your back," and I was not one of these people that really believed that. I was like, okay, the universe has your back, but what about the trauma, and what about somehow caress for me has promoted that, and it's promoted that because I know I've got my back. Twice a month, every single month, I'm going to gather with these ladies and I'm going to give myself attention in an erotic, beautiful, pleasurable setting, safe setting. And that is calming on the system. I don't know if you can sense that, the energy of it.
I can definitely sense the energy coming from you. And in my head, my own traumas are popping up.
Yeah.
So
do you want to
in my head, as you're discussing this, all I can think about is independent satisfaction. Always felt lonely because I long to be touched. I long to be kissed. Woo, we're getting emotional on this one. So knowing that it wasn't in communion, it was by myself, it didn't have that same level of energetic exchange that you would get by exchanging energy. And so my curiosity is that loneliness and that isolation helped by being in communion? Because energy cannot be contained even through Zoom. Like you and I, we're exchanging energy and we're not even in the same country. And I'm sure anyone who's going to be watching this conversation is going to feel whatever energy we're putting out. So, and when you think about the love languages, for me, my major love language is physical touch. So I'm curious.
Yeah, I would love to invite you. Come check it out. It's like, yes, I hear you. And I do think bodies love to be touched. It's not as if I'm saying don't touch anybody else and don't go make out. Like that sounds fun too. But there is just a sense of like, wow, I can engage in this practice that normally people, if they do it at all, would do it alone. And here in Caress, I can do it with my sisters. I can do it, on this reliable timeline, at least twice a month. And I get to, we share things in the WhatsApp thread. It's a really free space. And there are people that tell me, I want a self pleasure. I mean, I know it's good for me and my body, and it brings me a sense of joy or ease or health or various different outcomes. But I just don't have the motivation. But knowing that Caress exists and that we meet twice a month and that we have each other, it kind of changes it. I call it my tagline is a business doing pleasure with you.
I love that.
And yeah, for me, it did help me, when I was longing to be touched. You asked me initially about its origin story. It came about during quarantine. I was not dating anyone at the time. I was wondering, how long am I going to be here in my apartment alone? What's that about? And I'm with you, sister. Physical touch is really important to me, very highly ranked. I took that test as well. And so I was like, okay, what can I do to take care of physical touch? At that time, I wasn't ready to invite anyone to the party physically. During, the original stages of quarantine in New York City. So I was like, okay, cool. Maybe it's a Zoom. Maybe it's a Zoom with other ladies for the most part. Maybe it's this opportunity to explore our own bodies. But like you said, rather than just doing it by yourself, we're doing it together and we're sharing. Another part of the practice is taking a look in the mirror at your vulva and perhaps giving yourself a frame or a reflection or an insight. Maybe noticing shape, size, color, state, texture. I mean, just doing that can be a big deal for a lot of women. Some women have never looked at themselves.
Yeah, I had a profound experience with one of my mentors where she had me do that and then showed me pictures of the Virgin Mary.
Yes! Gorgeous.
Little similarities happening there.
I gotcha. It's true. Yeah, it's beautiful to look. And it's always changing. And it's like this amazing kaleidoscope. Oh, my internet's doing something weird. It's this amazing kaleidoscope, I said, when you take a look. And yet maybe we don't always schedule the time to do that. And it's unlikely that we'd schedule the time to do that in a more public setting. But, Caress gives us that chance.
That's amazing. So one of the
yeah, go ahead.
So one of the questions I want to ask you about is about universal laws of energy, which energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transferred or transmuted. And then the other universal law is the masculine and the feminine, that is part of the polarity of creation. What do you find is happening with empowerment when people are able to harness their sexual energy like this?
Yeah, I think it's literally taking it in your own hands. Literally. Right? That's what we're doing. And we're not doing it alone in the dark in the covers. We're doing it with a community of other practitioners. And we're doing it on a very regular, dependable schedule. So it's like, they say in romantic partnership to schedule a date, or, maybe Wednesday is date night or something. What if we did that for ourselves? What would that create? For ourselves, but still together. So I think energetically, it's, like I said, it's taking that empowerment into our own hands. It's communing with our bodies and with each other. It's sharing the love. I mean, especially in the consecutive day practices, really gain insights. And it might not be something you would otherwise do. It's like, I'm going to put aside this time. I'm accountable to my other sisters on the call. I'm going to show up for them and for me. And I think that translates in lots of different ways, like the universe having our back, or even the ways I think one would engage in romantic relationship while simultaneously practicing caress is really beneficial, because it's like, I'm not solely dependent on one other person. I have this other practice that I cultivate regardless of circumstance. There might be a quarantine. There might be a rainstorm. I'm still going to show up. I'm going to, sometimes people don't stroke their clitoris. Sometimes people just do the massage of the thighs or just take a look at the vulva. There was someone in the practice the other day saying she people know that I went through a double mastectomy, and I'm moving through that experience. And she spent the time looking in the mirror at her breasts. Again, I know I've said it before and I hate to repeat myself, but it's such an important aspect. The idea is all about following your own body's awareness and putting aside the time to do that. So there are people, and there's a pretty wide range of ages. There are people going through menopause. There are people, and their bodies are changing, and they're exploring that. There are people that are younger. There are people that are post-menopause. It's a pretty wide spectrum. Again, I hope I'm answering your questions. I feel like I'm going off.
No, absolutely. So one of the things I talk about in Unlearn the Crap is that our body is constantly talking to us.
Yes.
Between our emotions, the biochemistry of our hormones, through the chemicals that are happening within our gut microbiome that changes the neuroplasticity of our brains. We can create our own serotonin and dopamine and all of these things so we can create our own experience. But we have not been taught the language of our body. We have not been taught the empowerment of that. And I had to learn that as part on my own by figuring it out in order to save my own life, because my life was in jeopardy based on my own destruction that was happening with my own mental health. And so I had to figure this out and listen to what my body was saying to me. But I've never, even though I know the power of the sexual energy, and I know that our sexuality resides in our root chakra, which is part of our foundation, which is, even if you take it into psychology and go to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, sex is like one of the core foundations of human existence. And yet we've been taught to not talk about it, not think about it. We've been taught that self-pleasure is wrong or shameful, or all of these other things that take us out of our own personal alignment. And so listening to you talk, it is fascinating. It has me engaged, and it's soothing to know that it just goes along with what is naturally how we were created.
Exactly. I mean, it's just so interesting that sex, sexuality, eroticism, self-pleasure, all of these things are made wrong and bad, and yet they're so beautiful and healing, and they do bring, I'm sure your audience, and perhaps you right now, you've said it, like you're sensing that energy of like, it's a deep relaxation. It's this resource of our body that we often ignore, and we're taught to ignore. I mean, I don't blame anyone for ignoring our bodies, because that's essentially how we were raised on this planet, most of us. But just honoring eroticism, it's such a huge contribution. And even through, for me, like this cancer journey, I am profoundly grateful to Caress. I think Caress helped me identify the issue and resolve it. I was really intently listening to my body. And I would get feedback from doctors, and sometimes I took it and sometimes I didn't. In fact, I got fired by a doctor in a certified letter because he didn't like my natural approach, he said. But I really listened to my system, to my body, and it did not lead me astray. It led me in the proper direction. I had gone for a mammogram and they identified something, as was always the case. I have a family history of breast cancer, mom, grandmother, aunt, cousins. And so anytime I had dense breasts, anytime I went for a checkup, they would say something's horribly wrong. And I would really listen to my system. So I had gotten a mammogram. They said, there's a calcification. You've got to take a next step. My body said no. And then my body is the one that pursued further imaging, and the further imaging identified the cancer. So
Wow.
I don't even know, it could have been that calcification would have been removed in a lumpectomy, and then I might have had to go back in for the tumor. Who knows what would have happened? But I just really listened to her. And instead of making even the cancer, wrong or bad, I was like, okay, body, what are you telling me? Like, what would you like? And it's led me in the proper direction. I'm so freaking grateful. The other thing that came out of this, and a friend pointed it out, she said, I think it's because you lead caress. I didn't have a partner in my life. I didn't have one partner with whom I live or anything like that. But I have a huge community of support surrounding me. So rather than being solely dependent on someone to care for me post-surgery, again, I credit caress in part because caress does help you open up to receive. I had all kinds of people coming over to help. People gave me food. People gave me money. I had drains hanging off my body. And my friend Sean came and did these drains twice a day. People were here essentially 24/7 for weeks post-surgery. Why? There does seem to be a correlation between my willingness to receive and receiving as a generous act, receiving as benevolence. I'm going to receive. That's going to make you feel good. You're gifting me, and it's going to help a sister out. Like, that kind of mentality really got me through. And it was a unique way of being. I think often people depend on one person, a nurse, a husband. That wasn't the case for me, but it just was like so overwhelmingly beautiful to have so many people engaged in my healing.
I love that. I love that community.
Yeah.
But
I'm
you know what I love most about what you just said?
What's that?
You said something really key, that most women and probably most people have not been taught how to receive, how to accept, how to be vulnerable, how to be open, how to let it in. We've built walls. We're hiding behind caves. We're in self-protection. But there is no creation in that. It's all fear-based.
It's so true. In fact, there's an exercise from Access Consciousness where they literally say, lower your walls and your barriers, and trust you know exactly how to do that. I mean, we can do that now together with your audience, just lowering your walls and your barriers, trusting you know exactly how to do that. And just that small gesture can open us up to receiving greater.
Wow.
Right? You can feel it. I know you can, because I can feel you feeling me feeling it, right? Like it's happening.
I've just kind of relaxed into it instead of having my guard up, like having the sword and shield visual just popped in my head.
And that's really gorgeous that you use the word relaxation, because there too, I don't think we're taught much of that. I notice, to bring it back to caress, I do notice when I practice caress in the morning, similar to maybe other meditation or yoga class, whatever have you, I'm more relaxed. I think relaxation also opens us up to receiving. When we're so tense and rigid, a tense stick is easier to break than a loose fluid thread. It's like, what else is possible if we are willing to relax and open up to receive? Is that to say we're not going to be faced with disease or, all this reality ailments? No, those things might happen. But what if we could even meet those with a level of relaxation and receiving? That might seem counterproductive, But to me, I mean, just having gone through this cancer experience, I'm really grateful for it. It really helped me out. It really helped me grow. It really, it emphasized my connection to my body. I told you, and I hope it's okay to bring it up. I told you privately, I don't have nipples anymore, but I still feel them. So if I get a chill or it's cold, I feel like my nipples are hard. The body remembers. And what if we could not only, the body remembers is often a phrase we hear in the trauma space, but what if it's also in the pleasure space?
Absolutely.
What if I get to still feel, I feel it now. I get to still feel my hard, erect, turned on nipples. How the heck did I get so lucky? They're not here anymore. It's an energetic experience. And yet it feels exactly the same as it did when I had my D's with my nipples.
Well, we're both physical and energy.
Correct.
So just because the physical isn't there, the energy remains. And oh my God, when you were talking about, you're right, the body does remember, but we only ever focus in on the negative. We only ever focus in on the trauma. But what about the joy? What about the
Yes!
freedom? What about the love? What about the, that the chaotic dance of life? And I mean, just this conversation is bringing such joy to me, and I can feel my skin tingling, and I can feel the senses of my body just from this conversation. It's almost like this conversation has given my body permission.
Yes, please. I'm handing over a passport of permission for you and your body to just enjoy that. Because, yes, I mean, I too worked in the trauma world. I studied somatic experiencing by Peter Levine for 7 years, and I practice it, and it's amazing. And I remember a teacher, Rajesh Selvman, in that space talking about there's the vicious cycle, but there's also the virtuous cycle. Like sure we can tap into a collective trauma, and there's a lot of that going on right now. Let's be real. But there's also virtuous stuff happening all around us, miraculous things. You see me moving my head, I'm looking out my window, I see flowers, I see trees, even in the middle of New York City. That's a beautiful, miraculous experience. And yet we haven't necessarily mastered the art of noticing it. But what else is possible?
Yeah. And when we come back to the physical, biological, mechanical parts of our body, we have a part of our brain called the reticular activating system that works like a screen door, and it only allows in that which we have given permission. And if all we're focusing in on is the trauma and the pain and the hate and the negativity, that's all the screen is allowing in.
Yes.
But what if we set our filter for the joy and the opportunity and the experience of love and creation?
And orgasm. Let's just throw
And
that.
orgasm.
Yes, that's precisely what I'm saying. Yes, like it's our birthright, joy and pleasure and eroticism. Like they're like what you were saying earlier. They're essential parts of our daily life and living.
Do you know that we used to talk about the orgasmic pleasure of art, of dance, of music, of cooking, of all of these things. And now everything is a chore, it's a duty.
Oh, I mean,
I know.
I'm like spitting that one out. Yes. I mean, another modality that I created many years ago, well before Caress, is called the living blog, where I write a diary entry in the morning. I read it on a stage, and then I pair it with erotic movement. And then everybody in the audience gets to write, read, and move. So to me, art is amazingly transformative and erotic and joyful
And juicy.
and juicy. Yes, please. I think art can be, if I'm in a low space and I remember to do something artistic, it makes all the difference. And sometimes that looks like cleaning up my place, and sometimes that looks like drawing, and sometimes that looks like writing a diary entry or moving on the pole or whatever my body requires or desires. When I remember to do that, oh my gosh, it makes all the difference. Yes, to art. I told you, I was telling you earlier, I created cancer I don't know if I created it, but I did cancer comedy recently. So I got on a stage and made people laugh about cancer. Art has that amazing self-revelatory effect.
And it bonds.
It does. And it's like nature, right? It's like the earth or the dirt or the trees or the flowers. It's like it moves you through that, sometimes ugly, as we were mentioning earlier, sometimes imperfect, sometimes chaotic, but beautiful, creative process. Don't you feel like, I feel like we're in like, there was a church in my hometown, Beulah Baptist Church, and everybody would be like, yes, whoa, yeah. Like, I feel like that's what we're doing with each other. Preach it, sister. Yes, give it to me,
yes.
baby.
Yes. That's what it feels like. That's what it feels like. It just feels so joyful.
That was something amazing from somatic experiencing. So it's again, trauma healing method created by Peter Levine. It's very brilliant. I studied it for years. But like what he talks about is we can go back to the animal body. And for instance, big animal might be chasing little animal. Little animal plays dead as a way to regulate the body and protect itself, because the big animal will be less interested in little dead animal. Big animal runs away. Little animal shakes it off, doesn't harbor any chronic stress or problems in the system. And so basically, Peter Levine talks about how we can reunite with the animal body. And he emphasizes, okay, yes, it's a great first step to be aware of traumas, and amazing to notice where that shows up in the body. But I think there's an additional next step, as he teaches, which is find then the counter sensation. So if I'm feeling, if I'm thinking of a trauma and I have a stomach ache, okay, what's that feel like? It's really, there's tension and it's hot. All right, where do you feel the most loose, relaxed, cool in your system? And then giving that your attention. I mean, it's kind of like the theme of this conversation, right? Like we can focus on the pain and the suffering. I wouldn't want to totally ignore everything that's going on, but we can also invite the joy and the pleasure and the ease and the relaxation.
Yeah. One of the things that I talk about all the time is that our zone of genius, because we live in a world of polarity, our traumas, our challenges, our stresses show up at the exact opposite place. And so if we use that information, when those traumas come up, it's about honing our zone of genius.
Yes, please. That's such a brilliant observation. Access consciousness says, like, what if our wrongness is actually our strongness?
It is.
Right? All those things, other people or society or our programming, that you talk about, they all think it's wrong. What if it's actually strong? Like, what if it's the superpower that we were never willing to see?
I think it is. I mean, we talk about ADHD in our school systems and medicate it and keep it contained in a box because it makes it easier for the system. It
As
doesn't.
if ADHD is a bad thing. Like being able to concentrate on multiple things in this crazy world we live in, that sounds like a skill if you ask me.
It also, the people on the spectrum see
Are
things.
smart.
Yeah, but they see things in such a different perspective, and we need that perspective, and that's usually where the genius comes. And when we try to suppress it, and when we try to ignore it because it's outside of our conformity, well, who the hell told us that living in conformity and all being the same, like we were plastic being pumped out of a mold, injection
A
mold
robot.
system? Yeah, no. There's never been a more important time for each and every one of us to step into the beauty of our humanness.
Preach. Hell yes.
You got to promise me we're going to have more of these conversations.
Oh, please, I'll do this every week.
Yes. I might take you up on that.
Hello. Can we have one of our fun, amazing, brilliant conversations?
This is what's healing. This is what the world needs. Yeah.
So what is this? Should we distill it down? It's like giving our attention to the joy and the pleasure. Yeah.
Listening to the wisdom of our body and honoring the needs of that knowledge because it's guiding us to where we belong. Every part of it. The disease, the joy of the orgasm, the pain of trauma, the simplification of just being living in your own alignment.
Buddhism talks about the 10,000 joys and the 10,000 sorrows of life. And like, what if, we could just embrace all of it? What if we didn't have to make any of it wrong or bad? It's just like, wow, there's information, there's consciousness, there's awareness, there's fruit.
We have to have both. We have to have both because nothing is created without the rubbing, the conflict, the energetic, the combustion, all whatever term we use, we see it in all areas of our life. And yet we think we need to suppress it and deny it and numb it out and zone out. And all, like when you were talking about relaxation, we were taught the only way to relax is through numbing of substances or TV or another form of marketing that somebody will make a profit from our taking care of our own needs.
Yeah. But there's something else available.
Yeah.
And the truth is, whenever you like numb something out, I find, or push something away, it only gets stronger and louder. I remember Oprah Winfrey. I always remember Oprah Winfrey talking about, life speaks in whispers and then it speaks in screams. And I think that's really accurate. Like if we're not willing to listen to the whispers, life gets louder.
Well, that's how I had my breakdown. I say I was too strong for too long, and I just kept soldiering on and pushing past all of the signals that my body was trying to tell me that I was out of alignment and I was going down the wrong path, and I was creating. And eventually, my body and the universe took a 2x4 to me and said, "Okay, if this is how," and it's funny because as a mother, I used to say to my children, you can learn the easy way or you can learn the hard way. What do you choose? And yet I forced myself to learn the hard way. And that is the purpose of what I'm doing here with Unlearn the Crap and this show Level Up is about you don't have to hit rock bottom. At any point in time, you can become aware and you can make a safe U-turn at the next available moment.
Yes, please. I've heard, maybe you've heard it too. I heard it in this group called All True, where they talk about, is it a breakdown or is it a breakthrough?
It's both. But it doesn't have to be a breakdown. We can choose the breakthrough.
You're saying spot it before it becomes breakdown, right? You're saying develop those skills.
You and I were going for an hour and a half.
We have been? Oh my God. I didn't even know, but I'm blushing. But that's amazing. It's such a joy and a pleasure to engage with you. Thank you so much for your time and your energy and your engagement. You're fabulous.
Thank you. Your energy, your engagement, your amazingness, the love and what you're bringing to this world. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Unlearn the Crap and Level Up podcast. If this conversation spoke to you, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and leave a review. That simple act helps amplify this important work of unlearning the crap that holds us back. This show is built on the foundation of my 3 books, Unlearn the Crap and Level Up Your Soul is Calling, a roadmap to release what no longer serves you, How I Unlearned My Crap, which is my raw story of breaking free and the patterns that I needed to unlearn. And the 3rd book, The Unlearned Life, an AI-powered ritual system for truth transformation and personal empower. If you're a podcaster or you want to be, this is for you because 85% of podcasts fail. Not because of the message isn't powerful enough, but because the back end can be overwhelming. I created the Finally Podcast automation system so your voice doesn't become a statistic. Your message is too important to be silenced by burnout, tech chaos, or even wasted time. My mission is to support not only my guests and you, the audience, but also every podcaster who's ready to level up. So until next time, keep unlearning, keep leveling up,